Thanks everyone for joining us again. Today, our guest is Muddu Sudhakar. He is the co-founder and CEO of AISERA. It's an AI service management company, and we'll dive into more of exactly what that means shortly. But Muddu is a successful entrepreneur, executive, and investor. Muddu has deep product technology and go-to-market experience in enterprise markets such as cloud, SaaS, AI, machine learning, Internet of Things, cybersecurity, big data, storage, and semiconductors. Pretty busy guy here. Muddu has strong operating experience with startups. He's been the CEO of Caspita, Cetas, Kasian, Sanera, and Rio Design. Don't kill me if I butchered any of those. He also has experience on the public company side as SVP and general manager in roles with ServiceNow, Splunk, VMware, and EMC. Sudhakar holds a PhD and MS in computer science from the University of California, Los Angeles, and a BS in electronics and communications engineering from IIT Madras. He's widely published in industry journals and conference proceedings and has more than 40 patents. Quite the bio there, Muddu. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Darius, for having me. Excited to speak with you today.
Absolutely. So you all, from what I was reading, just came out of stealth mode and kind of entered the market with a splash with some strong customers such as Autodesk and McAfee. Pretty impressive there.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. We are very excited to be on your show today, but more importantly, the company has been going through a good journey. We are now close to 2.5-year-old company now, AISERA, and we came out of the stealth mode, I think, early this year. It took a while for us to build our technology and get customers, right? So these are a hard problem to solve, as you know, in AI. You really want to create a good solution with good customers and using the customer. It's not like you want to build a solution where the product is sitting on the shelf. Particularly for AI, you want more users and more employees, consumers using your product so that it's a continuous learning. It's not going to get better unless you use the product.
Yeah. Absolutely, and we'll get into the inception story in a second here. But I want to frame the conversation around what you guys do, and essentially why does AISERA exist? What problem are you solving in the market today?
Good question. So look, there are one big problem we want to solve, which is to automate and create intelligence and for customer service and support organizations, right? Customer service and support, as you know, has been there for every organization. It could be a small company, medium or large companies. Everybody needs to have customer service, support, help desk, service desk, all those areas that people, with the consumers and employees, users. Today it's been used with traditional, that area has been not innovated in the last 30 years. So our goal right now is how can we use AI, any kind of intelligence through AI, cloud and automation, the RPA technology, so that we can come up with the new solutions. First, to improve the life of the employees and users, right? Second, improve the life of call service agent. There are like millions of people in call service agent. He or she should not be waiting there to have a question solved for you, Darius, you and me. If I can solve the most mundane common task to AI, first of all, you'll be offloaded. You can do the things. You're not stuck on it. And the service agent can focus on the important items.
Awesome. And can you kind of walk us through a scenario where, let's use the call service agent, for example, what their workflow would look like and kind of what's the traditional solution, if there is some software that does that, and then where you all might step in as AISERA.
Good. Yeah. So good question. So let's say if you look at today's call center happens, take an example, you have a request for a Zoom, right? Let's say an employee or a user says, I want to download and install a Zoom. He or she opens up a request. A request could be like a case or a ticket with customer system. And an agent will come and try to look at the request and see, perform whatever the steps need to be done. First, check if the employee has access to it. Is he what level of access do you want to provide? A premium or a secondary Zoom, whatever the various levels of services. And the support guy, agent, in this case, lady or guy, will probably perform those steps and actions, right? So in terms of allocating, provisioning it, giving access to employee, all that is done by the service agent using whatever the workflow that company deploys it. Then you close the case and again inform the end user and employee saying, hey, I finished this thing. Here are the thing. You have access to it. You send an email or return a phone call. Now the request would come through a phone call, right? In a call center, somebody could call a 800 number, get it. Some people can send an email. Some people may come to a website and open up a support request, right? That's the typical support flow. It happens today. What ISERA wants to do is in that flow, we still want to keep the channels. The channels could be voice, like a phone, email, portals, or a chat. People use the chatbot. We don't get chatbot is one solution.
Okay.
So any of these solutions, when the request goes to a customer support agent, our system, our AI should be smart enough to actually try to resolve those requests so that if it doesn't even go to the support agent. So we try to do two modes of operation. We call agent assist. Can I resolve everything and give agent to still the power to say, hey, I like your answers, go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Fill the request. Or we can also run this thing in I call autonomous mode. I call them the autopilot mode to autonomous, like the Tesla mode, which is if the request comes in, if at a certain level of confidence, our system will auto resolve and close the request and take the appropriate action so that the agent is not even involved.
Now, does the system also identify or early identify issues that may occur, or are you waiting for that request to come in?
Very good question. So today, if you look at the customer support, it's a very reactive organization, right?
Yeah.
Yes, when you have your laptop doesn't work or you get a cybersecurity attack, you go open up a request with your famous vendor, the McAfee's or whoever it is, Palo Alto Network. So it's highly what you call a reactive organization. So far I described the flow as if you open up, how do you automate requests with us? So this is what we call the ticket intelligence, where we can do agent assist and autonomous. Your question is, can you get ahead? Can you be proactive? Right. Before the user will? Absolutely. We actually have a product there called AI Ops. The whole world of idea of AI Ops is before you have a problem, I should be able to tell you what request you're going to have or what problem you'll run into. Right? I'm not saying I will be right. I'm going to be able, it's like the weather prediction or earthquake prediction, right? I should be able to tell you by user, by application, you may run into this problem. Would you like to get more proactive and try to solve about this problem? So that can be user notification. You engage the user. I use the word user engagement here, or proactive notification, or proactive understand what the problem you have and you run into it and drive that with the user. Some users may want to do it. Some users say, look, hey, I want to wait until I have the problem, right? Some guys will say, hey, if you think I'm going to run it, go ahead and take an action, right?
Right. And so I want to better understand where the AI comes in. How did you build AI into the system to kind of accelerate the value you're creating in this service management space?
Yeah, in our case, because remember, we are solving so many different problems. Our AI has a lot of deep algorithms, right? At the end of the day, that there's a software, and software comes with algorithms and models. The AI itself, so if you underneath, you need to have data. The key thing what we decided is first is the data is the new oil. So we have created what I call a universal data platform. The data platform that we have will take your historical cases, or we take your ontologies, or we take your knowledge articles, knowledge base, your incidents, your change requests. We take any universal customer service support, alerts, logs, all the data sets. Because without the data, I can't solve it. Right. Data is like, you give me your data, then I know what it is. So once we have the data, what we do is we apply a series of different algorithms. Fundamentally, we created a new technology. This is our fundamental IP called unsupervised natural language processing, or NLU, understanding. So in this area, what we do is, given the knowledge could be your article, right, unstructured content, or it could be your alerts, cases. We applied unsupervised NLP and NLU to make sense out of it, right? That's one approach. There's also supervised algorithms, where you supervise or you train the algorithm how you want. Right? So it's like you have, if you have kid, you can be a tiger dad and a mom, train the kid what you want, or here is the kid, take the math book and science book, go do it whatever you want, right? So you got to have both. It's not a choice of one versus other. So we build algorithms in unsupervised stack, supervised stack, and then what you go down to the next level is you want to really build these algorithms into various classes, I call it, particularly for AI. You want to have a new class of algorithms are called knowledge graph. You want to build a distributed graphs. You want to reason over these graphs, right? That's a new area. The other area is called a Bayesian algorithm in statistical world, Bayesian algorithms, etc. Then other area of group of things called is what you call the Markovian state space algorithm, right? Particularly if you want to predict the behavior and what's going on, you want to create that class of algorithm called Markovian algorithms, Bayesian algorithms, graph algorithms. Then you probably will have all the other type of algorithm, which is statistical to probabilistic algorithms. So it's not any one. So we are at the age, you don't want to say, I want to have one. Once you have this large, diverse data set, you want to have a unique algorithm for different areas of the problem.
Right.
You can have many algorithms. The goal of all these algorithms is at the end is to drive and resolve the request like a human being does.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
If I can do the job of an average human being, he or she can do something better, right?
Right. And so are leveraging the algorithms, are you essentially learning, right, how to properly solve the problem, right? Whether you use they use your system to identify the problem or not, or someone actually creates a ticket, right, or a request.
Right.
You're leveraging the AI to actually go from that request to resolution.
That's right. And what happens in that is, look, sometimes you may want to use historical requests to learn, right? That's where you're looking at historical cases, tickets, and knowledge. Sometimes you may not have historical requests. You may give you knowledge, right? So let's say, what if you're a new organization? You don't have any cases. You just created a new company. In that case, also system should work. So it's not that you always need to have historical data. And sometimes I actually tell people, we are at a point, I don't want people to give their data, because once you're in the IT, I already know it. It's like, you're not going to give me a road. If you get a driverless car, you don't need to know the map of the road. It should still drive it. What if you take it to off the road? Should it stop working? So ideally, what you want to design your algorithm is, yes, I want some data, but once you reach a point where you train this algorithm well enough, we don't need the new data set from the customers. So I actually have a 5 no's, I call it, in the AI. Something. One is, I don't need your data. It's optional. Second, I don't need you to prep your data, right? I don't need you to hire any data scientists. I don't want you to do any custom PS work, professional services work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think these are the fundamental no's that I think where AI should get to. Otherwise, what happens is it becomes a very, very artistic type of solution. AI is no longer going to be a science. It'll be like, I'm going to custom and handcraft a solution for various needs. Yes, that will work, but that's like building a one car at a time. I'm in a business to do this thing at scale. Right. I want to have a factory and manufacturing of these things be done. So you're at a point where you don't need to touch the data. If you have the data, we'll use it. You don't need to hire any data scientists or AI ML people to do it. Let the system do the job for it. Not everybody can hire data scientists, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a business to sell Clorox,
well, if you have a big enough check for you.
Yes, you need that. You need to have a good check though, or a good credit card.
There you go. There you go. So, I kind of want to get a better understanding of, you're looking at, you're in the service management space. You all are leveraging AI. There's some other players out there, right? And correct me if I'm wrong as I kind of think about the landscape here. But you got like the Cherwells of the world, the ServiceNows of the world. How is what you're doing differentiated from some of the other folks in the space?
Yeah, very good. So look, I call it the co-optation, right? So if you look at it, the large vendors like the ServiceNow, you mentioned Cherwell or Salesforce, Zendesk, BMC. Mm-hmm. These guys are all what I call them. They are the ticketing system. So we coexist with them, right?
Okay.
So we want your ticketing data to go to ServiceNow, but we want to be the brains to resolve those.
Got it.
Right. So that's why. So your ticketing system is still going to be ServiceNow, Salesforce, Zendesk, etc. Right. What we want to do is have ISERA in front of Salesforce or on top of Salesforce or on top of ServiceNow. Mm-hmm. So we are a layer on top to make the best out of your ServiceNow environment. Right. Now, can they provide some of the tools? Sure, they can also build it. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen is the guys who are building the cars, they think of the classical dilemma. Do you think GM will ever build the electric cars as efficient as Tesla can? They may not, because they're confident. They want to sell 20 million cars of Ford and GMs on regular gasoline cars. And same analogy is going to be true here, right? The ticketing system guys, they want to sell more ticketing, more licenses. Any AI they're going to do it is going to only to that much, because whereas when I come to it, I don't have confidence. I have only one single goal. I want to do the best job for your service management business. I don't care what ticketing system you use, whose tickets are there. I just want to automate your requests so that the employees get the best and your agents get the best.
Right. And who are the best, who gets the most use out of ISERA services? That's part one of the question. I'll come back with the second part. But what type of organization is going to get the highest ROI?
Actually, good question. So I think, look, initially when I started with, I thought it will be enterprises and mid-market. You need to have certain size and scale, right?
Yeah.
So an example is, we used to think, okay, anybody above 500 employee companies you ought to be at least $500 million or $1 billion revenue companies for sure, right? The bigger you are, you have a bigger pain, you have a big call center, you have a big enough number of tickets per month or requests per month, you need that, right? At that scale, even if I do 20% automation, you make it. What we are noticing is even the smaller organization, because if you are a 100 employee company, 200 employee company, you don't even have a service management manager, you don't even have a call center, you don't even have an IT. So it turns out that the smaller organizations can actually use it as very effectively because they don't even have a call center today yet. So before you hire a first call center person, you should get an AI at least to solve the problem, right?
Yeah. Very interesting.
If you don't do it, then only hire the call center. So
Yeah.
to your point, I don't think it's any size at this point. In the beginning, the market started like that, but for ISERA perspective, I think any size. We are like a horizontal. We are not vertical focused.
Okay.
It's a horizontal play. We don't discriminate, man. We are in the world of change matters. We take everybody's
there you go. So the executives over there at the SMB level can also take a look at the website. You can also help those guys too.
Yes, sir.
So now, are there specific metrics that you cite? Let's say when you're having a customer conversation, are there metrics that you cite related to ROI? Cost savings, time saving?
We do. So the metrics, obviously, look, at the end of the day, I actually suggest to people that the metrics that as an organization to evaluate for tools like ISERA, first metric is what automation are you going to get, right? What percentage of requests can you deflect? Put a metric around that, a hard KPI. Is it 10% resolution can you automate? Can you do 20, 40, 50, 60, 70? Because some of the customers, we have seen it, in our customers, we get to 60 to 70% automation of the requests coming in that we can automate. That's huge. So that's a good KPI. The second thing is when you automate, how much user engagement can you get, right? Our number of employees going to use it is 10% of employees have penetrated this, because at the end of the day, if employees don't use it, your solution is really not going to take off. So user engagement is a good metric, like tickets that are deflected, requests that are deflected, how many users are doing it. And the third metric that you want to do it is what's the ROI you're saving, the money. Because for them to spend an extra check with me, they got to save money. Is there an ROI? Is this ROI is going to take 3 months or 1 year to solve the problem, to get back? Right? For every dollar you're going to give it to a vendor like ISERA, how much are you going to save? And is it a soft benefit or a hard ROI? And those are the metrics we actually talk to customers about.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to rewind a bit and go back to the early days and talk about, when you were first building out the product, who built the first version, and then, would love to understand how, you got that first customer or those first couple customers.
Yeah, I mean, look, a classical playbook for Silicon Valley startups is same thing, right? Like first as a founder, you need to have the idea and you talk to customers, right? You have to see the opportunity. So 2017, early on, me, our founding team, as well as our employees, the credit goes to always the early team to come with an idea to build it out. So we are fortunate enough to have a very good team. We built out the product, and you need to have a customers around which you want to build a product, right? All the customers that you mentioned, like the Autodesk, the McAfee's of the world, right? And these guys really helped us build the product a lot very early on, right? 8x8 is another good customer of ours, right? All these customers helped us build the product very nicely for us, and we interacted with them. We actually try to, you build a product, you kind of go through the whole iteration as to what they see with their eyes and do the A/B testing. Lot of learning. So in last 2.5 years, we learned a lot, and we're able to add a lot of value to the customers in return.
Now, were you able to kind of partner with them in the beginning, leverage some of the data to train your algorithms before, obviously you aren't stealth anymore. But when you say partner, were they partners in that sense, where they helped you to actually fine tune your ability to resolve issues?
Absolutely. I think you need to have deep engagement with customers where they're really a true partners, right? They're giving the data set, they're incentivized to help their businesses improve. from along with us. So we do partner with them. So they provide the data set and the knowledge, the know-how, and what they want to solve the problem, what are their use cases, what is exactly the pain point in the customer service side or the help desk, because customer service is again two angle. Is it end customer support or the local help desk? Or is it employees? Is it a consumer focused, right? In a global scale, like McAfee, you are like agents are all over the world, the employees are all over the world, and your users are all over the world, right? So truly, and data is very important. So we probably now have hundreds of customers shared the data. See, I call it. By the way, you should have another separate podcast to talk about. Look, I truly believe this data should be belong to the businesses and consumers. I call it bill of rights of data, right? This data does not even belong to the vendors.
Right.
So if you talk to customers, if McAfee customer data should belong to McAfee or Autodesk data should. So their data, if I can take their data and give the value back to them, that's music to them, right?
Right.
Like I'm coming to your house, taking your garbage, your exhaust, and giving you money back and save you. Why would you not take me, Darius?
Right.
So that's why I really call the data is a new oil. So if you can give me your exhaust, I want to analyze that exhaust, which is your ticketing data, your knowledge data, and reduce money for you in ROI in terms of your customer service support and your employee productivity. It's huge.
Yeah, no, very interesting, very interesting. And it's interesting when you think about, building, AI-enabled software, right? It's there has to be some data that you're leveraging. And, otherwise, how do you even get to implement it? How do you even get to the point where you can have a marketable product? Whereas, software, as we know it, typical SaaS, right? You can just build the software and then send it out into the market. But it's kind of a different process when you think about building out something that is AI enabled. I'm actually curious about, now it sounds like you started out with a co-founding team that was very technical. Is that correct?
It is. I mean, my co-founder is Christos Trifonas, and he and me have done a lot of companies. This is our fifth company or sixth company together. So, right. So, and plus all the early founding team will be a lot of engineering teams, product teams, but with the practical mind of working with the customers, because you cannot be so technical and not understand what the customers want from a use case perspective.
Yeah, very interesting. And so then, as you thought about scaling up, right? You're adding folks onto the team. How many are you today?
We're close to 100 people.
100 people? Oh, wow. Okay. And then, so when you began to hire those, specifically as it relates to the engineering team, data science, machine learning folks, were there specific skill sets that you targeted that were necessary to be a fit within your organization? Or, I'm more curious about what you were actually looking for as you scaled up the team.
Yeah, no, look, given that I've done it a few times, I have a playbook that I like to follow for this, right? See, early days, it was software type of, when you're building products like ISERA, you need to have AI first attitude in your stack. It should be cloud native, cloud first attitude, AI native. So for that, you need to have build teams accordingly. You need to have a very good product team. You need to have a very good software team. You need to have a very good data engineering team. You need to have a very good data science. Within data science, again, you need to have an ML team. The machine learning engineering team, ML engineering team is different from actual data science people,
right,
which is the AI ML guys. So I think and then you need to have the DevOps team. Then you need to have the cloud team. So I kind of have a playbook as to, there's different groups. It's once you start growing, it will grow like weeds, right?
Yeah.
Each group will have its own charter, its own goals, and these groups should interact and work, etc. And then you need to have the marketing team because they want to message this. Then you want to get the sales team. You need to build out all go-to-market functions as you grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we've seen is there are certain folks who say, hey, look, I could take someone, master's in computer science, PhD, right? But there are other folks who say, look, I want someone who had a software development background first and then learn the machine learning or the data science piece after that, just so they have better perspective of how the actual software that you have should be built. Is that the approach you took, or was it, look, we just need A players?
No, I think my playbook is different. Look, first of all, my strategy at high level is you always want to have very good A players, right? Yeah. You want people, when I say A players, you want people who are technically knowledgeable, they're good. You want people who are passionate, hungry. If you're not competitive and hungry, you're not going to thrive and survive in startups. So there are basic, what I call good skills I look for in terms of their competitive skills, their hungriness, their level of interest, their level of learning, etc. Now, there I think what you talk about, there are various playbooks. I don't have any one thing like that. My
Okay.
style is you got to have various things. You need to hire software engineers. You need to hire data engineers. You need to hire people who are straight from college. I don't like to discriminate, man. You need to have cross pollination. I want guys who actually drop out of school. I mean, the guy who do not go to college is actually a better guy. Sometimes they'll have out of box thinking. They create a better data science models, right? So
Yeah.
I don't mind whether you go to college or not, whether you have PhD or not. I have a PhD does not mean people need to have a PhD, right? So I'm already doctrine to certain thinking. Maybe I'm too bad for that area, right? So you actually cross-pollinate that. So good ideas will come from people of all diverse backgrounds. So mix up with some college grads, mix up with people who did not go to college, then people mix up some master's people, PhD people, get the data engineering, data science, then put in a room. That's when the innovation really happens.
Okay. Great. And then just given kind of the times we're in currently, right, where everyone is kind of forced to work remotely, have you historically focused on, a particular geographic region, or did you take a remote first approach? And how are you thinking about it today?
No, we actually are geographically from day one distributed. It's now distributed obviously to every employee's home. So we have offices in Palo Alto, Seattle, Greece, right? So we are pretty well distributed as an organization from day one, how we started it. Now obviously people are working throughout from I think it will be remote working for foreseeable future, right? We don't know how long till the vaccine is there, I guess, right? So no, people do work remotely. Obviously, anytime organization which is used to work in 3 or 4 locations to work to 100 different locations, it's always going to have some challenges, but people are actually adapted really well. I think humans adapt really well. So I think we all adapted really well to work remotely.
Yeah, that kind of
more issue, right? We all need to be safe. So safety is the main thing.
absolutely.
That comes priority.
The other benefit is kind of you're not confined to a geographic area in your talent search, right? So you can find the best people, but globally, right? Sometimes the best people don't want to move to, Silicon Valley or, any other hotspots for talent, right? So very interesting there.
Yeah, if you know some good people in Colombia, send it my way. We are hiring a lot of.
I can talk all day about how good the Colombian talent is, but we can leave that for another discussion. One thing I wanted to have a conversation is about the actual customer conversations. As you're actually talking about what your capabilities are. Generally speaking, are your customers aware of what artificial intelligence is? Is it a sticking point? Is it a selling point for you all? Does it create some type of value in the customer's eyes? And then on the flip side, do you have to educate them on why it actually is? You have a better solution for what they previously had.
Yeah, very good question, Derek. No, look, it's all of the above, right? So there will be always some leading customers who know already what they want. They know what type of AI they want or what type of use cases they want within customer service and support, right? So obviously there are customers who want it. Some people you still have to do education, right? But I think what will happen is, I can tell you, look, I've been doing this startups for like last 20 years, right? There are like 3-4 things that are happening in this area. I call them trifecta. One is the AI really changed a lot in the last 4-5 years, right? Particularly with the deep learning. Even though it started with ML, it's becoming deep learning with neural networks and also with all this stochastic, probabilistic algorithms and knowledge graph as a technique. So AI is really taken to the next level. AI wouldn't have happened in the same way unless cloud has happened. See what Amazon or Azure and Google Cloud have done in the last 10 years. Cloud is the precursor to all these things. The third thing is automation. Right? We didn't talk about this call. Many of the requests are not actually knowledge servant. It's not like Darius wants something. It's actually do something for me, right? So this is where it's called robotic process automation. These are called unattended bots. Can the bot actually do the job for you? Can it actually perform the action, workflow? So that whole area is also taken off really well. So you have automation,
right?
You have AI and cloud. If you get those three, that trifecta is really disrupting the industry. So obviously, some customers, leading adopting customers will see those. Some will require it to understand, hey, they know what AI is. Everybody knows what it is at high level. They probably read in the press. How is it relevant to their use case or what it is, right? And that's where we actually spend time and walking through various, because everybody will have their own perceptions and their bad experiences. I actually will give you a statistic you may want to. We talked to Gartner about this, right? Gartner analysts, and they've done a survey of it. People who did early days of the AI, like who are many people try to build it yourself. Guess how many, what percentage of people wanted to do it yourself? Like more than 90%, 70% they did. Last year that reduced to 50%. In 2020, Gartner saying only 10 to 20% of the people will actually do it yourself. Because there come to a point, you know what? I'm not going to get that many data scientists to hire to build it. Like you don't wake up and say, I want to build a Tesla car or a General Motors car. You'll buy a car. So I think this initial fascination to I want to do it yourself quickly fading away. That's a very good trend, right? You are leaving to the experts who are only focused on that. Second thing is the people who tried this project, even though they failed, guess how many of these failed projects are people who failed projects are actually still want to continue? 100%. That tells me that even though you took an initial bet and you failed on it, you want to continue because you see the value and the benefit.
Right.
You might choose the wrong path today, does not mean you should abandon it. It's like you bought a car, the car did not, you're not going to abandon that car, you're going to still buy another car.
Yeah.
You're going to start walking on the street, right? So
yeah.
That concept of people who want to bet, that's coming from the C-level people. The board, CEOs, the business guys are saying, guys, we got to adopt it. Either for growth of their business, either to add value, generate new revenue models, or cost cutting from CFO. So people are definitely doubling down on AI.
Yeah, one of the interesting things and trends that I've seen is that, you know, executives, it's less, they're starting to reshape how they view AI, whereas before it's like, oh, it's this cool software that I can just plug into whatever I'm doing right now, right? Versus them seeing it as a journey, right? We're going to try, some things are going to work, some things aren't going to work. It's a learning process that we have to go through. But if we want to be competitive in the new world, right? If we want to be in a position where we're a market leader, we have to continue down this line of experimentation. And so there's a little bit more, and obviously this is a generalization, but there's a more willingness to experiment versus, okay, we tried it, it doesn't work, and next, right?
So I actually have a proposition for you. If you really want to do like, you know, CNBC, right? So like CNBC, you should actually make your podcast to be called AIBC. You need a AI broadcast corporation, man. You need to educate people on this. Seriously, you should have an AIBC channel where you have all these people coming and talking about various use case example. I truly believe that nobody has done that. You should create an AIBC. You will watch the. Yeah, I'm telling you.
Can I keep that? Can I keep that trademark? You know.
Got it, sir. AIBC.
Yeah, no, but that is kind of in a lot of the conversations, because look, I didn't have a technical background, and I'm like, what? Okay, yeah, it sounds awesome, but like, what is it actually doing? So I started out taking some, you know, these certification classes, and I'm like, okay, I get, you know, the techniques, but I still don't get how this applies to the real world. So, you know, that was a reason for creating the podcast, to kind of get to that point. Let's understand what's actually happening here, which is, you know, why we have someone like you on who can actually, you know, let's put this, the context of what AI does in English, because we know it can get pretty complicated quickly there. But yeah, so that's helpful. What I'm curious about is, you know, now that you're out of stealth mode, you got some great customers, but if we were to take it back, right, to day one, and you were to know everything that you know now, what would the first 90 days look like?
It look like, or what did we do in the last 90 days? How it was? Is your question more like what our first 90 days look like?
Yeah, what would your first 90 days look like if you were armed with all the knowledge that you have now?
Oh, I think it'll be the same thing. I don't think. See, in my case, we knew the problem.
Okay.
In my 90 days won't be any more different than what I did already. And we kind of, this is 2017 view, right? Look, I came out of service now, so I knew what the problems were. I knew the service management industry. I met with many call center people. I actually went and visited many call centers too, right? I worked at Splunk, VMware, ServiceNow, so I knew the challenges people have been facing. I think for me to do this thing is, we didn't talk about my mission for this, is much more broader.
Okay.
If you go to these call center people, most of these call centers are really today, they get almost very small dollars in an hour, right? They get like $4 or $5 an hour. They're in, I don't know if the call centers in Colombia or not, they're in like Costa Rica, they're in Argentina, they're in Philippines, they're in India, China. So the quality of life of this call center agents, we really wanted to improve because they also want to move up, right? They also want to become journalists, they want to become programmers, they want to become data scientists, right? So for me to do is the mundane task that we are expecting them to do should be done by the algorithm so that they can move up in career, right? They need a career migration path.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, I mean, there are a lot of studies, they're like 10 to 20, 30, 40 million jobs are in call centers worldwide. And they've been always like that. And their attrition rates are very high. People leave in their job 6 to 12 months max, right? So if there's a way we can improve them so that their productivity is improved and they get something. I mean, even if you make a change, right? We are in the 2020 with so many change movements happening. Is there a way we can invest? So for me, it's like going back to my first 90 days would be the same as what I've done in the past. Right?
Yeah.
I really want to do this thing to make a change for this service agent. Seriously, I mean, look, if your podcast, if you show it to all these service agent people and they listen, to me, more importantly, all the CFOs should listen because you're really saving the money, but also you're getting the best out of the employees,
right?
The agents and this, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those things like if it's like farming. You're not going to go back to dig the land with the hands anymore. You have a tractor. There's a reason you have a tractor. It's not that humans cannot dig it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to do it. You can do other things.
I can definitely identify with what you're saying. I think, my first job out of college, I was an auditor for a Big Four accounting firm. And, conceptually what I was going to be doing was very exciting, right? What I had studied. But when you get into the weeds, right, there's certain tasks that don't require a lot of thought. There's very manual tasks like ticking and tying. It's like something where it's like, look, you don't really need to be smart. It doesn't really require any thought to do this, but you may spend 12 hours doing it, right? So if I can get rid of that and then focus on higher level tasks, now I feel like I have my day was more fulfilled. I learned something. Which is interesting because you think about this generation, and that's kind of, folks are like, there's this hunger to learn. There's this hunger to, there's less of, I'm willing to spend 2 years just doing the basic blocking and tackling before I learn something. So it's interesting kind of how you guys are thinking about adding value from the perspective of having work being more enjoyable.
Right. And again, if you look at it, I mean, there's also, the reason to do it is one is what we just discussed. Second is if you look at any company, any large company, every company has a call center company, right? Pick any company from Walmart to all this.
Oh, yeah.
They also have a moral obligation to provide their call center employees to move because for them to do what they're doing it, right? So if these guys don't provide that path, they'll always be in the call center business, right? You want to move up in their careers and in their cost of living, etc. So I think that's why I'm saying, look, if you can take their podcast and get all your CFOs and these executives to see this, hey, I need to make a change. Use my AI here, not just to help benefit Muddu and their ISERA. There's actual benefit I'm going to give it to people, right?
Yes, yeah. Awesome. And where can they find you? Where can we find you if I say, hey, look, I need ISERA, where do we look for you?
Yeah, it's our website, www.isera.com, AISERA.com. Send us email at sales@isera.com or info@isera.com. Please reach out to us. Our website has all the good content and collateral for them to download, read about us, and contact us. And we usually talk to the clients. We'll do customized demos. We also talk about customized projects, engagements, pilots, proof of concepts, just so that we meet the needs. Look, we're a startup company. We want you to win your heart first, right? I want to solve a problem for you. If I win your brains and hearts, then that's a long partnership that we want to cherish.
Awesome. Well, again, Muddu, thank you for your time today. This was very helpful. I think you did a great job at breaking down something that can be very complex and helping us, us less tech forward focused folks understand. So thanks again.
Thank you, Darius. You've been very kind to have us. Appreciate it. Don't forget AIBC.
AIBC. Nobody take that as mine. All right. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Darius.